ounce of gold, mister, is worth what it is because of the human labor that went into the finding and the getting of it.
Never thought of it just like that.
Well, there's no other explanation, mister. Gold itself ain't good for nothing except for making jewelry with gold teeth.
Humphrey Bogart has been hailed as the greatest male star of classic American cinema. And it's easy to see why, with performances in some of the most iconic Hollywood films of the 1930s to 1950s. Bogart cut his teeth for the first decade of his film career in supporting roles as gangsters and criminals. He played roles like Duke Mantee in The Petrified Forest and Hugh Babyface Martin in Dead End.
Don't you, Duke? I don't know, pal. I wasn't listening.
All right, then let me speak for you. He could have been across the border by now and safe, but he prefers to remain here. Do you know why?
Why?
Because he has a rendezvous here with a girl. Isn't that true, Duke?
Yes, pal, that's it.
In 1941, Humphrey Bogart broke out and became a star, first with High Sierra and then the John Huston-directed Maltese Falcon.
I've no earthly reason to think I can trust you, and if I do this and get away with it, you'll have something on me that you can use whenever you want to. If I've got something on you, I couldn't be sure that you wouldn't put a hole in me someday.
Bogart's career had skyrocketed at the same time as World War II ramped up, and it was World War II that gave him the role he's probably remembered for above all others. With the American entry into the war after being an ally-aligned, technically neutral power, Bogart got to play Rick in Casablanca, his first romantic lead and the film that would make him an international star.
He's looking at you, kid.
The rest of the 40s saw him paired with future wife Lauren Bacall in To Have and Have Not, The Big Sleep, Dark Passage, and Key Largo. All of these films are now considered classics in their own right, the peak of Golden Age Hollywood cinema. 1948 saw Bogart working with John Huston once again, both on Key Largo and on The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Tonight we're going to talk about The Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Let's, let me tell you something, my two fine bedfellows. You're so dumb, there's nothing to compare you with. You're dumber than the dumbest jackass. Look at each other, will you? You ever see anything like yourself for being dumb specimens?
The book of the same name was written by B. Traven, a mysterious author whose life and even identity is disputed and basically unknown. He is thought to be the same person as a German stage actor and anarchist named Brett Marut, who edited a newspaper called Der Ziegelbrenner. Traven moved to Mexico and wrote 12 novels, largely set in Mexico, including The Treasure of the Sierra Madre in 1927. Traven's work, both The Treasure of the Sierra Madre and the so-called jungle novels that he published afterwards about the Mexican Revolution, became incredibly popular for the next 2 decades. During the filming of Treasure of the Sierra Madre, John Huston wrote to B. Traven, offering to hire him as a consultant. Traven declined, but said that he'd send his agent, Hal Croves, to work on set with them instead. It later turned out that Hal Croves was actually B. Traven, working under another one of his many assumed names. The period between 1941, when Huston and Humphrey Bogart made The Maltese Falcon, and 1948, had seen Bogart's rise to being Warner Brothers' biggest star. Huston and Bogart were both engaged, as all Hollywood had been, in making war propaganda. When Huston came back from making propaganda documentaries, he set about planning The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Humphrey Bogart wanted in. After years of making films where he was romantic leads, heroes, and private detectives, he was happy to be able to play the worst shit you ever saw. The Treasure of the Sierra Madre is the story of 3 Americans, Fred C. Dobbs, played by Bogart, Tim Holt as Bob Curtin, and John Huston's father, Walter Huston, as Howard, who are all poor American beggars living in the Mexican town of Tampico. Tampico is the home to both an oil rush and a gold rush.
Hey, mister. Please take a fellow American to a meal.
After working as roughnecks and getting cheated out of money by the sleazy Pat McCormick, who hires laborers and tries to cheat them out of their wages to set up the oil camps, Curtin and Dobbs take the little bit of money they got by beating up McCormick and some well-timed lottery winnings, and they throw in with the old prospector Howard to try to make their fortune in gold. Gold, however, corrodes men's souls. The greed drives them to crazed paranoia.
50, 100, like roulette. One more turn, always one more.
It wouldn't be that way with me. I swear it wouldn't.
The mountains where the gold is found is full of people lurking, including bandits and indigenous tribes. Fred C. Dobbs is, even more than the others, singularly unprepared to deal with the insanity that comes from striking gold. In today's pop culture, this has sometimes been called the age of the anti-hero. Especially with the rise of prestige American TV, we love to see our protagonists not only be complex, murky and ambiguous, but sometimes even fully break bad. However, the anti-hero stories have not always been easy to tell on the screen. Common in the early 20th century French literature and mid-20th century American literature, the anti-hero is completely alienated from society, unconventional, and lacking common scruples. The French fascination with anti-heroes went hand in hand with existentialism, where questions of destiny, purpose, and morality were explored and often left unanswered. These stories were harder to tell in the realm of American cinema, as the Hays Code left strict moral and ethical standards for characters to follow. Early Hollywood wanted unambiguous heroes and villains. Heroes must win, and villains must be punished. Yet still, Humphrey Bogart's characters have almost always walked the line where they could. Breaking Casablanca, who is secretly just as sentimental as anyone about Ilsa and defeating the Nazis, pretends to have a strict personal neutrality.
I stick my neck out for nobody.
Wise foreign policy.
Sam Spade in Maltese Falcon seems like he's actually going along with the plans to acquire the Maltese Falcon until the end.
I won't because all of me wants to, regardless of consequences. And because you counted on that with me, the same as you counted on that with all the others.
Humphrey Bogart also got chances to play unambiguous villains as a career criminal in High Sierra and an escaped murderer in Dark Passage. However, the Treasure of the Sierra Madre gives us the chance to see Humphrey Bogart break bad. For that, it's a rare role in classic Hollywood, one that even a brilliant star like Humphrey Bogart had to lobby for hard.
Oiga, señor, we are federales, you know, the mountain police.
If you're the police, where are your badges?
Badges? We ain't got no badges. We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges.
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live stream, send us a super chat, which helps me keep the show running, and which I am obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are on there forever. We also have a new Discord and a Letterboxd HQ account, so those are two more places to follow along with us. Links are in the description. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends has a new split LP with Lung, Adult Prom, available now on Bandcamp. J. Andrew World, illustrator, book cover artist for Gives Him an Argument, co-host for Movie Night Extravaganza, and Bad Takes. Kristina Oakes, This Barbie is streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics, Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Cosmopolitics. Send her some subs on Twitch. Eileen Jones, the host of the FilmSuck podcast, the author of FilmSuck USA, and a film critic at Jacobin, as well as a former UC Berkeley professor in the Department of Film and Media. I, of course, am your poverty-stricken host who would never be greedy about gold, Forrest Miller. You should join our Patreon so I can stop panhandling.
Gold. This show'd be lucky to get iron pyrite. Am I right? Eileen, welcome back. It's been a while.
Hi, thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
We donned our finest hats just for the occasion.
Thank you. Very good looking hats.
New wig.
And I didn't don anything. I got nothing.
I didn't get the hat memo. So
Andy's definitely the one that's been hanging out in the hotel, the Oso Negro, trying to tell anybody who would listen that he's been all over the place looking for gold. Right? That's Andy's role in the.
Absolutely. People are saying this more and more. This is great to be talking about Treasure Sierra Madre. Personally, this is an all-time favorite film of mine. And I was kind of shocked that we didn't cover it, especially since we already did an Adventure Month, but I don't remember why we didn't. But it's doubly awesome to have Eileen on because I feel like this is Eileen Jones' catnip, Treasure Sierra Madre. Would you agree?
It is. In fact, I love it so much, I kind of forget it. It feels like it's part of me. I've seen it. They used to run it on TV constantly when I was a kid, so I saw part of or all of it so many times. It's just in my marrow.
Did you end up reading the book for this?
And I never read the book, so it was also fabulous. I always meant to finally read B. Traven because he's so legendary. You're just like, and he's just as good as everyone says. I think.
Yeah,
he's fantastic.
Especially like for like people that because I worked at Jacobin for a little bit, like you work at Jacobin, like especially from like a socialist perspective, it's like, oh no, this guy is definitely like farther left than anything that exists right now. I think like I'm pretty sure he's like a German anarchist, like he like to the point where he got kicked out of Germany for being like too far to the left.
Yeah, absolutely. For part of what was it, the Bavarian Socialist Republic, which I didn't even know existed, or some crazy.
Yeah, he was also,
you say so. Yeah.
Part of the he was part of like the
which
Soviet
lasted a month, I think.
I think the Rosa Luxemburg one at the time, like he was part of that sect of the So they're like, no, you're gone. And then he spent the rest of his life on the run, but like long after World War II was over, and like 20 years, he was like that one Japanese guy that was, still thought he was fighting World War II or whatever.
Or at least still convinced they're going to find him and drag him back like decades later. I love that. Supposedly, anyway.
The thing that got me about this is I'd kind of forgotten just how much it's in popular culture, like Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yes, 8-Ball Bunny, one of my favorites.
And I remember seeing the character, the Dobbs character, in that Bugs Bunny cartoon without having known like what the heck Treasure Share Madre is.
Right. When I was a kid, I had no idea.
Yeah, how would you? Yeah.
And also,
but it was so great the way they shot that. That was genius. They'd show his pants walking into each scene, and everything would stop. And I loved that. That was brilliant.
Yeah, it's interesting that I again, given the just how unlikely it is that this movie ever would be made. Because remember, Bogart, this is not the movie that people wanted from Bogart at all.
Yeah,
I agree. When I think of Bogart, I think of film noirs with Lauren Bacall.
Yeah.
So when I saw this, I was like, it's fine. I guess I'll watch
dudes
a
rock.
genre.
Fine.
Yeah. Well, but once you get used to him and he's so good at grousing and complaining and being a malcontent. And once you see him do it, you just want to. It's so good, and it sounds like it was sort of a bit like his own personality. He talked about how he liked to sit around and complain and carry on, drink. Well, like Captain Queeg, or even Charlie Allnut in African Queen, someone who's kind of hanging back and finds life, kind of.
And it's a good role. There's meat to it because if you think about it's funny because I think last time you were on for Banshees even Sheeran, right? And we were talking about how a certain be-eyebrowed individual had been typecast as a himbo, and was like, oh no, this dude can actually act, right?
The Irish are coming for us. They're coming for our roles. That pretty soon. I mean, seriously, the Irish are coming, guys. We better watch out.
But Bogart was like. Was like that of that era to a certain degree because people loved for good reason. Those are good movies. Casablanca, Maltese Falcon. Love those films. Don't get me wrong. But he's a real bastard in this, which is awesome. And he's like so good, like Gollum-like almost from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, like Gollum-like as opposed to like a big bad or like a villain that starts out as a villain, right? Like somebody so corrupted by the end of the movie. That like what I mean, like it is like a Breaking Bad thing where they start out.
I'm glad you put that in the intro because that's exactly it. Because it's that slow just chipping away of the corruption of the human soul.
Right. I read a hilarious review, kind of belated review by Roger Ebert, and he does something awful where he tries to argue that the whole movie is really a kind of simple morality tale. And it's a test of character. So we simply see Fred C. Dobbs has a bad character. And I was reading this going, you're taking this movie and making it into what what Warner Brothers and Jack Warner would have loved it to be, and exactly what it isn't. Because the whole fascination is Fred C. Dobbs starts, and he only calls himself Fred C. Dobbs when he's cracking. I love that too.
Yeah, he starts using his full name, including the initial. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. But at first, he's like, a guy who's, he's no better, no worse. The Howard keeps saying, he's as honest as most people. He's not a bad guy, even when he's losing it. But yes,
It's a fellow American down on his luck, right?
Yeah, he's just a fellow American down on his luck.
Down on his luck in Mexico, which is like a real bad, like a situation you do not want to be in. In like the interwar years when,
if there's one place my sister says she will never go, is Cancun. I'm like, man, the Backstreet Boys are having a big event there. She's like, never going to Mexico again in my life. And I'm like, you can take my mom to 2 big concerts for her 60th, but you can't take your sister down. Okay, I see how it is.
He's treasure of the Sierra Madre once.
We occupied Tampico. Like that was the thing during Woodrow Wilson's presidency. They arrived at like Veracruz. They arrived at Tampico and they occupied it with U.S. soldiers because, like, pretending it was because they were disrespected by the Mexican government, but actually because there was a lot of oil there.
The oil holdings, absolutely.
Yeah.
Huh. You're saying it's about oil? The devil, you say. By the way, speaking of oil, I love. I do really like There Will Be Blood, but like when I saw it, was I the only one that was like, "Yo, Treasure of the Sierra Madre" much? Like,
oh yeah, definitely.
It's kind of. I mean, it isn't like a blatant ripoff, but it's like, okay, so you're basically just doing like the same thing, but like in your specific style, which I enjoyed. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is great in that role. Don't get me wrong, but
at least he admits it. He admits he was inspired.
Inspired by
And there's no milkshake scene. Come on, there's no milkshake scene.
It's totally different.
Yeah, I mean, this one just has badges.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's Paul Thomas Anderson or whatever being like, this time I'm going to make a movie from like, the 1870s rather than the 1970s.
Totally different. It's totally different.
He likes one decade, but, one decade each century,
And one aesthetic.
Coming up next week, Paul Thomas Anderson.
Great. Just follow right up. What do you think of John Huston as a filmmaker?
I was thinking about that because I think there's a strong case to be made for him just to be like literally just one of the great filmmakers of all time, right?
Yeah,
100%.
And fascinating as a guy, too. Like not just like granted, he could be a bit of a bastard.
Oh yeah,
but like
kind
not
of satanic. He really has a look of him that's very, very suitable to play that villain in Chinatown. He really
I mean, look at his kids too. Considering they're notorious for playing villainous roles too.
Angelica, yes.
Danny.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's right. Yeah. Well, but
I think he doesn't get the he's not part of the big auteur discovery.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
And Pauline Kael, the critic, complained about that. She said the problem for you is he doesn't make the same movie over and over because he adapts projects. And he tries to sort of deal with the style of the writer and what the writer's doing. So he's not like Hitchcock. He's not constantly having the blonde and the wrong man plot and all that. And that's why he's kind of losing out at a time when there was all that evaluation of who are the great American auteurs. He kind of loses out right there.
Yeah,
because he made this and Key Largo the same year. Literally back to back. Both with Humphrey Bogart. I mean, Key Largo is a very, very different movie in a very different tropical locale, I guess, right? Like one of them is fucking in the middle of Florida, and one of them is Mexico.
And a lot of directors are kind of known for sticking to like one specific, like we all know Scorsese does so many films about gangsters and whatnot, and even Coppola. I mean, Coppola does branch out every once in a while, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, look at Jack. Anyway, but like Moulin Rouge, Key Largo, like he directed like
Asphalt Jungle, African
so many different
freaking Maltese Falcon. He could have just done like 20 of those, right? And people would have loved it. I would have loved it. Are you kidding me?
Casino Royale.
Yeah, I mean,
I know. I am sad he didn't do more film noir. He was so good.
Yeah.
That is a shame.
Yeah. I've forgotten. Speaking of Asphalt Jungle, like, did he like Marilyn Monroe? Brought a little someone named Marilyn Monroe, who actually he respected as an actress.
Yes, very few did because she could act.
Absolutely.
A lot of her earlier work, she was more serious and did like roles of like stronger, even like disturbed women. But then once Gentlemen Prefer Blondes came out, she was just the blonde bimbo type.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and that's a story that we see over and over again, right? I mean, there's plenty of examples of that.
But there are no women in this movie, so we don't have to worry about that.
I was going to say, luckily, that is not a problem in this film. I mean, look at Selma Hayek. She wanted to do comedy for years, but basically all the executives like, no, you're too hot. You need to like...
Right. Yeah. But in a
Which,
way,
granted, she is, but okay.
but a lot of the attractive actresses do have excellent comedic timing. A lot of them end up doing more comedies now.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right. Which is fine. We celebrate that. But this
I
is
forgot that he directed Moby Dick.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
the 1950s, like
That's what I'm
epic
talking.
one.
You forget classic movies that this dude directed, right? That's how many you did. Like,
And I mean, he didn't
The
stop
Hobbit,
either. I
he
mean,
did Gandalf.
worked. Yep.
oh, that's right. I forgot about that because he had a prolific acting career too. Like, you know,
Yes.
even
His father was an actor too, right?
and is in this movie. And how did I not know that as one of my favorite movies of like, that's John Huston's dad?
Yeah.
2
Like
years,
the guy who does the
John
jig
Huston
and like
Yes, it's the
2
the
years,
harmonica without his teeth in? Great.
2 years
Amazing.
before 2 years before he died. And he had this prolific acting career where he's in dozens and dozens of movies as like a bit player, pretty much. And like had never won anything, had never really gotten acknowledged. And then he ended up winning the Oscar specifically for this.
Sorry, you're hearing my dogs play. I'm sorry.
Right there.
Very, very popular among the puppies of the world.
Trust me, my cat's chewing at my cords right now, and it's driving me nuts.
Oh.
This is why I love to have a dedicated space for broadcasting.
You can help with your dog. When your cat's
and it was
watching
notable
egg out the
too
door.
because with his dad being in this, they both won Oscars. It's one of the only time that happened that a father and a son. He won the Oscar for directing, and his father won as like supporting actor, I think. Remember right? But like. He and his big thing was like, okay, hey, I know you're doing all this stuff. The one thing you got to do, you got to put me in one of your movies. Is like what he said because he was sort of like he was a working actor. Well, he was a working actor, but he hadn't gotten really the huge parts. He was never like a name actor.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome! You have the.
This is.
We didn't plan this, people. We do this sometimes.
This is the shortest Oscar speech I ever heard. He comes up, he takes his award, and he leaves.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the privilege of presenting a bright new star who literally burst across the Hollywood sky from the footlights of Broadway. Last year, in her third picture, a little thing called Gentleman's Agreement, she hit the jackpot. She is here tonight to present the award for the best performance by an actor in a supporting role. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Celeste Holm.
Thank you, Bob. I remember so well how I felt last year, sitting out there, trembling, excited, and hopeful, and finally overwhelmed with gratitude. So far be it from me to prolong the suspense. The nominees for the best performance by an actor in a supporting role are Charles Bickford in Johnny Belinda, Warner Brothers, Jose Ferrer in Joan of Arc, Sierra Pictures, RKO Radio, Oscar Homolka in I Remember Mama, RKO Radio, Walter Huston in Treasure of Sierra Madre, Warner Brothers, Cecil Kellaway in The Luck of the Irish, 20th Century Fox. And the winner is Walter Huston.
Thank you and left.
Is this a dude on a drum set? Is that the walk-on music?
It's a small world after all. Okay.
I can do that. Got a drum set over there.
Thank you. Bob said you can't take any credits. I'd like to take a credit myself. Many years ago, many years ago, I raised a son, and I said, if you ever become a director or a writer, please find a good part for your old man. He did all right.
I think Joe Pesci still has some serious speaking history.
That rules. And he's out.
No jig. That's all.
That's enough.
Okay.
That's all you need.
Calling out his
Even a
own
jig,
son.
though.
There you go.
Take note, every modern actor and actress.
Yeah, if you get interested in him, he does have a couple of really good parts. There's one called Dodsworth. That's a 1935, I think. And then there's one called The Furies, which is a Western noir. And he's this guy who gets so wealthy, he has so much land, he declares himself a kind of Napoleon figure. He prints his own currency, and his daughter, played by Barbara Stanwyck, has to bring him down. It's very good.
Oh, wow. That sounds very Baron of Arizona, but in a good way.
yeah. Well, anyway, it's good.
I'm in because I just thought he was a random dude. I thought he was just like some guy. I was like, oh, they just got this crazy looking gnarled dude.
Crazy old guy. Yeah, he's that good.
Well, he's got that like
just seems
classic
some
character actor face, right? Like
He
he's
really
got
does.
the face that looks like a like almost like an old tree or something like that. And there's a lot of actors like that from this time period. I feel like there was just like a room full of old men, like like prospector looking old men that are.
Yeah, it's just like that scene in Lord of the Rings where the trees rise up and go to fight Mordor. Except it's just old Hollywood actors who just look like trees.
Right. They actually just look like trees. They aren't actual trees. Andy World, everybody. Anyway, so yeah. Go ahead, Forrest. Yeah. What are you gonna do?
I was just gonna say, like Celeste Holmes, like whatever, like her speech was longer than his, I think.
Way longer.
When she was like, I was just sitting there last year and I was so nervous, and now I'm here. And then he's like, I raised a son. My son made a movie. Good night, people.
Here we are. Good night, everybody. Yeah, because when people go through like the laundry list of like thanking every human being they ever met and their management, like nobody cares. I'm sorry.
It's so bad, and it just never ends. Keep thinking.
That's why I like when like certain people are like, I don't like talking about myself, so I'm gonna like thank like my family and wife and just get out.
Yeah. I mean, they're like, there are moments like, all right, so for instance, I don't know why we're talking about awards, but Golden Globes, Divine Miranda won for Holdovers, great. And she had like her little handwritten list, and she was kind of like shaking a little bit. And like, that's obviously endearing because like she's an amazing role. She's someone that hasn't been honored in that way before.
What I hated was back in the 90s and early 2000s where everyone was like, I would like to thank Harvey Weinstein and the Weinstein Company, because without you bullying the shit out of the, this would have never been possible.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
hindsight's 2020.
Well, it's like it's pretty much it's just like every Bush like administration address, right? There's like Dennis Hastert behind him that ended up being a pedophile. So every video you watch from that time period, there's so many people that ended up becoming like huge sex offenders or whatever that are behind like every famous person in pictures. It's like crazy to go spot them. It's like
it also seems sickening, even besides just to thank the corporation or whatever. Or thank your agent. It's so absolutely like, are you trying to represent how soulless
I like when Robert Downey Jr. went for Oppenheimer. He's like, yeah, thank you for whatevs, and like he was so like casual about the win.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. But anyway, so what do we got here for us?
This is John Huston talking about his dad and directing him. Nice. 2 years later, his dad had passed away. I think 1950.
Oh man.
The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, I thought was very good, and I told Bogart, this might be a great picture. Bogey said, "You're out of your mind. It's a good Western."
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking we ought to give up. Leave the whole outfit. Everything behind and go back to civilization.
Nuts, am I? Let me tell you something, my two fine bedfellows. You're so dumb there's nothing to compare you with. You're dumber than the dumbest jackass. Look at each other, will you? Do you ever see anything like yourself for being dumb specimens? You're so dumb, you don't even see the riches you're treading on with your own feet.
Actor on the set is the father. So I became his father, which made me my own grandfather.
Yeah, I think I saw a movie with that.
John Huston and I had a point of agreement. He believed that, like music, just the vision of a moving horse is universal. A noble
Robert Mitchum from a random attic.
Training for achievement.
Where is he?
John thought that a good horse had more grace, spirit, and heart than many of the people he knew.
My mother was a fine horsewoman, and among my first recollections is the sound she used to put me in front of her on the saddle before I could walk.
Johnny Huston's got one of those voices that's like very easy to listen to.
Yes.
Although I imagine if he was yelling, it probably would not be the case. But
even when he's talking about his daughter that Jack Nicholson is meets, and he's talking about like molesting his daughter or whatever in fucking Chinatown, and you're still like, I could still listen to the speech. Like,
yeah,
I hate to say it, but like,
yeah. Yeah, he has a very mellow, tobacco-y kind of old-time voice. Yeah,
right, and it is interesting too because it's almost like he would fit more in the modern age, tier-wise, where like the personality of the filmmaker is as important as the work, right? Because he acted too. He would show up in other stuff all the time.
I mean, Casino Royale doing that Sean Connery
obviously. We haven't brought up the fact that he's literally in the second scene of this movie where he's the guy that that's asking, like, when he's going around asking Humphrey Bogart's asking him for people for money. He's like he's like,
it's always him.
Spare a meal for a fellow American, and he's like walking around saying that. It's Sean Huston that's that fucking balls him out and is like, come up
I wasn't looking at his face though, so I didn't notice.
I was amazed that came right out of the book. Somehow I thought that was in a clever thing they thought of for the movie, but it's actually in the book. Yeah,
it was the "Are you employed, sir?" of its day for sure.
Yeah, well, as is the entire like badges thing, which kind of surprised me.
Which is constantly misquoted too, which is so funny. Yes. It's like how famous is the misquotation of that?
Yes,
it's like
I can only think of the misquotation. Actually, I can never think of the real line. Yeah,
Blazing Saddles. They actually have I think that's where one of the misquotations comes from.
Yeah,
they have the three Mexican guys come up to Harvey Korman, and they're like, badges? We don't need no stinking badges.
Maybe that's it. Okay.
Yeah, it might all come from that because I mean, like I kind of first learned it from UHF.
Sure.
Yeah,
UHF, badges.
Right. Yeah.
We need no stinking badges.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
I love that actor. Isn't that actor great?
He sadly passed away shortly after that movie came out too.
Oh, did he? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was reading about that. He was in a car accident shortly after the movie came out, which is a shame because he was amazing in that movie.
So good.
Yeah.
Casting is excellent throughout the whole movie. Really, really perfect.
The one big change I think between the novel and the movie, though, I liked that it was the gold hat guy that ended up.
Yeah, I do like that.
Yes,
I agree.
Instead of kind of, I really liked in the novel that it's just three random fucking other thieves that just happen to be hanging out, and then they machete his fucking head off, which is crazy. And you couldn't do that in a 1948 movie anyway.
Well, did you read that the claim that they shot it and that you can still see the remnants? I'm like, why would they even shoot it? They couldn't possibly have thought they could get it in to a 1948.
You could like they point at the ground and then you see like a head fall, in the shadow or whatever. Like
it was very hard to get violence going,
and that's crazy violence though. Like that's not even, like I don't think I'd want to see that. Like I don't think I'd want to be watching because that's an escalation. I mean, it's already a huge escalation when he shoots Curtin twice, right? Like that's already, and you don't see that, but like you very viscerally hear that, and like for him to be walking along and then get his head cut off by a machete, that would have been too much. I would have been like, it would have
been like in that scene in the original King Kong where he like shakes the bridge and other people fall into the gully and are eaten alive by the insects, and everyone went away from the movie like, yeah, that monkey was scary, but boy, those insects, that was really terrifying. So they cut it. So like, we don't want people talking about the insects. You kidding me? It's our ape movie.
It's also like the novelization. I mean, the novelization would not have worked on screen, but it's crazy that he gets murdered, he gets whacked by the fucking machete, and then they just keep following the three random thieves that like take all of his stuff, who like don't know obviously what gold looks like because nobody knows what gold looks like when it's just dust. So they're like, oh, I don't need. Why is there all this sand? So they throw away the sand and then bring the donkeys to the next town. You just follow along with their narrative for the next few chapters.
Yeah, I like that. And there's something about that Huston gets away with that it seems like it was really hard to get away with. He does this a version of realism that over and over he pulls off in ways that, and I'm not sure how he even does it. Like if you watch Moulin Rouge, it's there's stuff, and it's a 50s movie, and you're just like, how the hell are you getting away with the Toulouse-Lautrec story, which is
We love those dancing hoes.
Oh, it's so good. It's such a good movie. It's really an unsung great film. But I mean, over and over, he pulls off things that Hollywood hated. They always wanted, if they could get it, a sense of simple moral tale, justice done in the end, happy ending, all of this stuff. And he just his whole sensibility goes against it.
Are you kidding? He's like, I don't want to be like everyone else.
Well, but I think it is notable that he also refused to do genre, like we talked about, where it's just like, okay, I'm gonna do stories I want to do, not like, and I think it's amazing that Bogart was like, yeah, we're just doing a Western, dude. Don't get too excited.
I know, isn't that hilarious?
Which is like, you're doing the Western. This is like perfectly embodying the Western genre and transcending at the same time,
Well, Bogart also
John Wayne who?
Like Stagecoach is a Western, which I like Stagecoach, but that's a Western. This is something different. This
John
is
Wayne who?
He lobbied really hard to be like in this though. So it's not like he wasn't that dismissive.
It's not like he didn't think that they were doing something worthwhile. I'm not saying that. No, it goes back to he being the Colin Farrell of his time.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's a fantastic role. He shines in it. Like,
really does. It's like, oh, he's too good looking. Play something so scruffy.
Which is funny because he really kind of caught on his career like relatively late in life.
He did. He was a much prettier stage actor and early film actor, and then it was only once he got craggy and had drunk, all the liquor in L.A.
And that's when Lauren McCall was like, "I'm 19. You're." In your what? How old were they?
Oh
like,
yeah, that's right. That was a May December, wasn't it? Yeah.
I kind
of just talk quickly before we pass him by, because everyone passes him by. Could we talk about poor Tim Holt? I mean, the poor guy, he can't catch a break.
Cannot catch a break. That
cannot catch a break. There he is between
Speaking of Stagecoach,
giving him one of his greatest ever performances, revelatory, and Walter Huston just absolutely taking over every scene. And there's poor Tim Holt, who I like. I actually quite like, but he just has no chance. And here he was hoping to get blasted out of B Westerns where he was stuck, and he was hoping this role would do it.
Nope.
And it didn't do it at all. Because
well,
no one paid any
he's hoping to get out of B Westerns by being in an A Western, pretty much.
I know, in an A Western with top people.
He was in like some 30 more just kind of like whatever B grade Westerns after this. But I think if I remember right, he was like managing a radio station or something when he died. Like he had to like get a straight job. Like he never, and he is really good in this. That's the thing that sucks. It's just
great,
like,
and think of him in Magnificent Ambersons. He's the lead guy, and he's great.
Consistently good.
He's low wattage or something.
Right. Just he's not Bogart, and he's not John Huston's dad, and like. Who again was so good, I didn't realize he wasn't just like, oh, just got some random dude.
We went out and found a
random guy that like has no teeth. Right on.
The description of his biographer for Tim Holt says, no more was he the callow, youthful cowboy with a big silly grin. Now he exuded a steady, serious, no nonsense type of mature cowboy who was less impulsive. So even in his biography,
different now.
It's like he could play two different kinds of cowboys. Like,
no, he's got range. You're saying he doesn't have range?
Cowboy, baby. Oh, wait, that's a Kid Rock song. Never mind.
Yeah.
This is not the movie though to get out of westerns because everyone's so covered in sweat and like rags.
It's so dirty.
Right? Like, they're like. The only thing you could get casted if you're not already a huge star is westerns after this. Right.
No, Ambersons presumably should have done it, and it didn't. Yeah,
but that's also Orson, who like
exactly.
No
the
wonder
sets are upstaging you. Forgot the lighting's upstaging you. Everything's upstaging you.
And it's no wonder that Orson Welles and John Huston like got along because it's like they're the same kind of irascible character in a lot of ways.
Huge, larger than life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
literally in Orson's case.
Also, there were also these like kind of very sympathetic to like political like different individualistic but also left-leaning political things. But like a very specific kind of like almost anti-establishment kind of lefty that I feel like they're the same. Their political sensibilities were the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
like John got mad at Bogart for retracting his thing where he stood up in front of whack, and a couple years after this, and he tried to stand up for everyone that was being taken down by like McCarthyism, and then he retracted it because he got cold feet. And Huston was still talking like decades after he died. Huston was still like, shouldn't have retracted it. Like, I love the guy, and I forgave him, but shouldn't have retracted it. Should have kept to it. And it's like, This is like I don't know. I mean, that looms large over so many different people. That
So
were,
many
careers.
careers. Yeah.
Like
Lauren
even
Bacall
Robert
didn't give a
Mitchum,
shit though.
Robert Mitchum, I think, had to leave movies for a little bit over.
He had to hide out in an
weed
attic, as it
thing.
turns out. He had to hide out in an attic and do.
Was it because of the weed charges? Like him and some actors were charged.
Well, there
for
was the
possession of
weed, the
marijuana.
prison term, but it only made him more popular. But he did have to
Yep.
serve time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like a couple of days.
which is crazy because if you think, I mean, I firmly, and I said as much on the show we did of it. Night of the Hunter is like he's one of the best villains of all time.
Oh, he's so good.
Like he's so good on that. To the point that Spike Lee literally ripped off the love and hate speech, which is because and got away with it because people don't know the films. But I mean,
also
like
think that's why he ended up towards the end of his life getting the huge bottle glasses. He had been like the creepy fucking villain in so many things, and that
he wanted to change it up. Sure,
like, he wanted to be like a friendlier kind of personality, so he got the giant Coke bottle glasses.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That'll do it.
And hid in the attic that apparently they made the like there's all these like
It's hanging up there like
submarine
Anne Frank.
Oh, there.
Like,
What's
there's,
with this anti-Semitism on the stream, Conan?
But there's all like it almost looks like there's like submarine parts in that attic. Like there's a weird
I'm
amount
so
of submarine.
fascinated. I almost wish we were talking about that documentary because there's so much to unpack there. Like
It
it's
really is.
literally
That
so
was
much
the
to
real
unpack.
old-
Did you
the
see those
real old
boxes?
time thing.
There's so many boxes. But anyway,
Anyway.
How about the lighting by the fire? Right, all those shots. Like, how beautiful are those? Like, just like, so gorgeous. Like, the shadow
I love that
play.
about Houston. Houston can go so expressionistic. Like the fight scene in the bar is also just suddenly a formalist dream. You know, guys falling into the camera and there's deep shadow everywhere.
Yeah.
But then he'll go right to flat realism for so many scenes. He does have huge range. But I think that's another thing. People couldn't just say his films are identifiable visually really easily because they all look so different.
Yeah, he's the guy that does this thing, and it's like, no, he just does cool stuff, basically.
Yeah, very, very cool.
African Queen, not a movie that looks very good. I tried watching some of that, but it's like the layer
Those
of
horrible
sweat
rear projection shots
Yeah.
are so terrible. Yeah,
and the layer of sweat on everybody too. It's like, and it's glistening, and like the way that they do the lighting and everything. It's like, I can't.
That's got Katharine Hepburn, right? That's the one.
Yeah.
Katharine
Yes.
Hepburn. Yeah.
No, well,
Yeah, I
you
haven't seen
should have watched the one I did, the Ride with the Devil or whatever that was, or Beat the Devil. That was
Beat
it.
the Devil.
Beat the Devil.
Yeah.
Which is fun.
Riding with the Devil sounds like a Kid Rock album.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Probably is.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
But no, Beat the Devil, which is absolutely
Beat the Devil's good. Yeah, I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Kid Rock and the Devil sharing a Bud Light.
And then they'd have to shoot it, of course.
Yeah.
And then drink it like a few weeks later, calling the
Yeah.
boycott over.
I think this works. This movie is an all-timer for me just because, I mean, it is sort of like you get to see Bogart do something different, right? We all, obviously, Casablanca is a classic for a reason.
Casablanca.
And Maltese Falcon is a classic for a reason as well. But like it's weird for me because some of my favorite movies are not even like the most famous ones of his. Like he's a dude that had like a lot of depth. In A Lonely Place, that's a noir, but instead of being a cop, he's a screenwriter. And it's amazing. Like he's really good at it, but like wasn't nearly like a hit like it was like for the Milo stuff. But I think it's completely interesting that like the slow boil of like paranoia and possessiveness that he goes through on this. Like he doesn't start off being a villainous character. He's like somewhat self-interested, but like whatever. As people that are scrambling for purchase tend to be, and it is a good slow burn. Also, can I add too, as someone who's constantly advocating for movies to be shorter, this movie does not seem as long as it is to me. For as much plot as they put in here, it really moves, and in a way that's like the Batman.
Oh, whoa! Speaking of
take notes
which,
for.
did you guys hear Martin Scorsese's going to make an 80-minute long movie? About
Fantastic. Okay, I never called him a hero before, but
it's going to be an 80-minute Jesus movie?
He's atoning for Killers of the Flower Moon.
I'm like, what? Or Jesus of Nazareth was fine, but I'm like, Scorsese directing.
You can call it Crosses of the Flower Moon, you know?
Yeah, you could fit in 3 of those during that film. Anyway, Well, good for him. I mean, I think we firmly on the
He
record
must
on
be
this
watching
show.
us then.
Yeah, make movies short again. Exactly. But I mean, but I think it gets back to like the era appropriate poverty, you know, like, and it's so on display here, and it's done so well, and it really gets across that like getting the gold is the start of the problems, right? It isn't the end of the story. It's like, no, that's kind of where like everything sort of sets off. And there's a grand tradition of, you know, the people get money or riches or whatever, and then it's lost by the end of the film. And I honestly kind of get annoyed by that, especially when it's like coming from a puritanical space where it's like, no, take the money, take the money, take the money. But I think in this way it's earned because it's so artful. Like the fact that, like, spoiler alert, he gets got. and they don't realize that like the sacks of sand are gold. And so it's just like, oh no, they just gets put back in the wind. So there's that really beautiful dust storm that they're going through. It's like, no, that's like everything you worked like whatever 9 or 10 months for, like literally flying around. And then it's like, well, it's going back to where it was, you know.
Well, and that also hooks in. It hooks in so beautifully with the speech that Walter Huston made. You showed a clip of it where he says, you know, gold. What is it? It's not good for anything. It's good for jewelry. And so why is it so valued? Well, it's the labor of all the people who got gold and who didn't get gold. It's all the people who died trying to get it. And so that whole sense of like, what is this thing that we've all been killing ourselves
and
for?
literally it has fate, like the fool's gold, like in the same places that the gold is.
Which it frequently actually is in real life too. So it makes sense.
I'm kind of I'm fascinated by the fact that though, like the B. Traven guy in this, I was watching this documentary. He had four names that were like whatever, but he broke into during the filming of this. They think it's him. I mean, I think it was him, but he broke into John Huston's hotel room, and he woke up and the guy was just sitting in his hotel room, and he was like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Oh, my name's Hal Croves. I'm B. Traven's B. Traven's
no, I'm his guy." I mean, look, I've gone on record as saying that the biopic industrial complex needs to end immediately.
I agree.
That said, the more that I've learned about this dude, I'm like, where's this guy's movie? Because this guy seems fascinating.
Good ones about people like this. It was so great. Because, you know, then there's that whole thing with the wife coming out after he's dead and saying his widow and saying, okay, I'll really level with you. He was Hal Crows. He was all these people, blah, blah, blah. He was actually born in Chicago.
And John Huston is like, I'm not convinced.
I know, and then Huston takes it back and says it wasn't him. And it's like, wow.
It's like, what's happening?
Well, she didn't like, because I watched the BBC documentary about like where they interviewed all of them about, including John Huston, about who this guy was. The wife didn't even really know. And she was just like, she was his translator pretty much. And he got married. And then she's like, oh, he would just settle out of stuff. And like, we hung out and like, but like, I couldn't ask him any questions. And he turned off his hearing aid. The guy that, they think it was B. Traven, he'd turn off his hearing aid whenever they asked him too many questions. And
my dad does the same thing, by the way. It's really annoying.
It's like, I don't know. Like the whole story of it is pretty insane. There's like 4 different names of people that think that it's him, but then they like put the pictures next to each other. They're all like the same guy, I think.
Yeah, they look a lot like the same guy.
People
but I just like her idea that he was born in Chicago. Like that would make me so happy if that were true. It just sounds
like that.
They say, what is it in the novel? I guess I think they don't say it in the movie, but they're like, you could get killed anywhere. You could get killed walking the streets of Chicago, which now like is a really funny line. with every fucking conservative right wing person like fear mongering about the streets of Chicago. But like in this is like name somewhere safe, and it's like the streets of Chicago. Like,
literally. You're never more safe in like. You're more safe in Chicago, New York City, and Los Angeles than you are in like my state, my town. We found a dead body like down the road, not that far from where I live.
Is South Carolina open carry like it is in Wisconsin?
Probably. Well, the thing is, the Fifth Circuit Court, the one that carries like Maryland to South Carolina, that court always gets in the way of like what McMaster wants to do. So like we're not Florida yet because they intervene for us.
So it's another feather in Treasure Sierra Madre's cap that like the guns are like a precious commodity. Right, like, and I like that some suspension of disbelief, especially for like era westerns, is that like everyone's got guns and they're running around. Okay, cool. Not people couldn't actually all afford guns,
right?
We still
Right,
can't
'cause
afford
the bandits are really after the guns.
Yeah, that's what they'd rather have, and I love that aspect about it because that's
Yeah.
like something you don't again, because if you use it as like a narrative tool, we got to have a shootout. And we got to have like a duel or whatever. Okay, fine. Then you got to have guns. I mean, and I'm not sitting here dissing that as a narrative tool. Like I love the Leone movies and stuff like that. But I'm just saying that I like that it's in here. It's like, oh yeah, they don't. They want the guns, man. That's what they're looking
on
for.
fire, where like, they had, there were no guns. And so like, getting a gun was a big deal. The bullets were precious. And you get a little bit of that in here. So it's kind of cool to see.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't even thought about that. The whole scarcity of guns and ammo is like through the whole movie when you kind of think about it.
Everyone's they're concerned
Howard
about
wants
it.
to get weapons, and they're like, "What do we need weapons for?" 'Cause they need extra money to get the weapons, and then he's like, "No, we got to have the weapons." And then when poor Bogart, when Fred C. Dobbs tries to shoot the bandits, and he's forgotten that the curtain took the bullets out, so there he's like.
Yep.
That's a beautiful. That would never have happened in any conventional Western. Everyone's always got bullets and bullets and bullets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their 6 shooters have like 60 bullets in it. 60. It's a 60 shooter.
Well, they also their story falls apart. They're pretending that they're hunters in the mountains, which they're like, we can't tell everyone that we're going to have gold. They'll just come steal our gold. So like or the government will come and extort their gold. So like they're like, well, we'll just tell everyone we're hunters, and then that's what fucking alerts the bandits. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, there's these hunters. They must have guns.
Yeah,
so that's like the law of unintended consequences, right? Like,
yeah, there's so much irony that's working its way through the story that's another unusual aspect of Huston does a lot of that in his storytelling, and again, not a favorite mode in popular Hollywood filmmaking.
No, well, because it's not, and again, all this happens. It's not too slow, but it's not too fast either. Like it's like it's very evenly paced, and in a way that like I actually thought about it as like, I wonder if this is going to be still as great as I remember it. It's been a long time since I've seen it, and I was like, oh yeah, it still rocks. That's awesome. Yeah. But I'm curious, Kristina, had you seen this before? Before we
when I was really, really young, watching on Turner Classic Movies with my pop, because he liked watching. He was a big film lover. If he were alive today, he would be on this podcast.
There you go. There you go.
But I literally was like, "Where are the cowgirls?" Like,
because it is a Western, but it's such a dirty, filthy, like everybody
it's a
like
man movie. It's for the alphas.
Like you can smell this movie. You know what I mean? That's what I love about it.
And it's
like,
not a pleasant smell.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant smell. Exactly. Yeah.
And it gets worse throughout the
as time goes on.
He doesn't. It doesn't seem like he smells good at any point with it. Even when he gets like his nice little shave.
They didn't really have toiletries back then, like that well.
I mean,
they probably just had a bar of soap to wash everything.
Yeah. When I was drawing the show art, all I could think of was just like, I got to find a good picture that doesn't smell. Like,
by the way,
scratch and sniff nowhere.
Men, don't be using your body wash as your face wash and your shampoo and your conditioner. You can afford better toiletries. I'm just saying.
Is that what Zoomers are doing? That's horrible.
No, that's what men do in general. It seems.
No, not me.
They're like, what? They're like, I don't.
But I'm just built different.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Also, anything meant for men doesn't actually work, believe it or not.
No, it just has got like, it's got a snake on it or something. Oh, it's tough.
It smells like wood.
One of the
tactical support soap.
One of the most interesting dichotomies in this, like, on the subject, he gets the nice haircut, the bowl cut or whatever, right? Like, which is it's not a great haircut, but it's a good haircut.
The Will Byers haircut
compared to what he has by the end of it. And he gets his nice haircut, but then he's still wearing rags.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's like,
he's got a lovely haircut, but looks
it's like, oh, there's a bit of a mix up here. You gotta.
Well, he just looks great on top, and then he walks out wearing his rags. It's like, oh yeah, he's a homeless but with a nice haircut.
yeah, exactly.
Well, I love that performance when Bogart he seems to have no vanity whatsoever for a guy who's once again his stage career he was considered as handsome as Valentino.
He's a matinee idol,
and he's
he goes like this with
more
his
nose. So
he's doing all these faces that are so unflattering.
It's like he's trying to look as gnarly as possible.
Yes, he is.
I also really like the image of Americans who went to Mexico, got stuck in Mexico and are taking Mexican jobs, like doing the even
white
even the
people,
shoe shining, right? Like, and there's that
Did you
nice
hear
little
that?
speech in the beginning of this movie where he's like, as an American, like you can't go around shining shoes like like an indigenous person does. The rest of them, like the other shoe shiners, will just beat you up because they're like, this gringo is taking like good, high paying Mexican jobs.
Yeah. That's funny.
I didn't really think about that till like right now, but I was like, damn, like this because they're all day laborers. Like that's what their gig is in oil country. And like they're closing up like oil mine by oil mine, but they're literally just the people that stand out in front of like a Lowe's, but like the reverse version of that. Like I give you a job, and then like even the Americans cheat the other Americans out of the fucking money. They're like, like I don't actually have to pay
McCormick. Yeah. Right.
Speaking of, so for the Mexican actors are interesting. Was it Alfonso Bedoya? Is his name? I'm not familiar. Other than this movie, I'm not familiar with other stuff he's in, but I know he's been in like a bunch of other.
Oh
stuff.
yeah, they listed just tons. I know his face looks. He's one of those character actors that his face looks familiar, but
he was that guy of that day for sure.
Yeah.
But it's I was gonna say, as opposed to something like this is like the fourth time we invoke Stagecoach, but it's Stagecoach. One of the most kind of like hard things to watch is like, oh, they're supposed to be Indians, huh?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's
I just watched Valdez is Coming, which is based on an Elmer Leonard story, and the only Mexican in the movie is Hector Elizondo, and every other Mexican is one's a black guy from Jamaica. And the other one is Burt Lancaster.
What?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Not a lot of sensitivity.
No, but I will say that the guy from Jamaica gave a great performance. I actually thought he was Mexican. So
Scarlett Johansson level.
Well, yeah, it is his Wikipedia page or his IMDb page, whatever it was I was reading. It's like he's racially ambiguous, but he's born in Jamaica, and I'm like, oh, okay.
And it's true. I haven't read anything about Huston in relationship to casting, the indigenous people versus the
Well, I think they just
how sensitive he was being. I don't know. Actually,
well, he said like, "Well, we're going to be shooting at you," and I think if I remember correctly, that the exact quote was, "As long as you don't hit us in the arms or legs."
I mean, even though this film is in black and white, you know that back then, even if they looked more ethnic or whatever, Hollywood was like, "No, we got to make you darker." Regardless of it being in color or not.
I mean, that's just the dirt, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting. It's fascinating that because this is a location shoot. That they went to go shoot this to a place, right? And I'm not saying I don't have anything against sound stages, especially the big Technicolor backdrop. Black Narcissus. I just saw freaking Blimp. And it's that's a great example of good use of canvases and stuff. But I think that it's notable that you could have done this on a set. The vistas you couldn't do, but you could do all the campfire stuff. You could totally have done that on a set.
The beginning of the end of the studio system as we know it. Just kidding.
I'm fascinated by the concept of a gold rush and an oil, the oil rush happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's you strike out with the fucking oil industry and you're like, I guess I can go prospecting. That's your alternative. Or I can get a job shining shoes. Those are your three options.
Go home and get your fucking shine box.
Exactly.
Yes.
The whole thing is the whole milieu of it. Cause I feel like that moment in history has been kind of almost lost to time. Half American occupation, half Mexican Revolution happening at the same time. This whole kind of mess happening in Mexico during the Woodrow Wilson years, and even further decades later. And it's this movie's kind of brave for America's relationship to the world had changed by the end of World War II in a pretty drastic way. And this movie's kind of brave for tackling this period, which is a way less, I think, sympathetic period, of U.S. history in the eyes of most people, right? I don't think that America wants to remember, hey, remember when we invaded Tampico?
Yeah. What's an interesting thing about the narrative I was thinking is having that guy show up. The claim, kind of the super rhetorical claim jumper essentially, who makes a very long argument about why he should be allowed to just horn in. And it's such an interesting development, because whenever anyone summarizes the narrative, nobody ever brings up this fairly long sequence.
Yeah, who's like has a wife and kids and like a stronger claim to like everything. It's like, oh yeah, too bad he's dead. Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they finally decide at the end of it. They're like, you know what? Like, this guy, I guess you can join us. Like, we've because like there's a camaraderie in shooting at bandits together. And
right,
like,
exactly. They all
I
unite
guess this
briefly.
guy really can be one of us, right? And then they go and he's like shot in the head, and they're like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna move to the next spot. Like,
and then like the old prospector's like, hey, you're young, go bang his wife.
Oh, I know. He doesn't actually say it, but that's clearly
it's clearly implied.
That's what he was implying.
I'm gonna bring his wife a bunch of gold and see what happens.
I don't think I've ever seen that, to have someone show up who's clearly a claim jumper, and who's then going to argue, make a long persuasive argument. Well, like,
it's you never see that. You're right, because first of all, he doesn't just come in strapped and start shooting. Again, see the scarcity of guns, but he really just kind of like states an intellectual case for why he should be brought in.
Because
right?
he's like a really quiet, insidious version of Gold Fever. Like when you read the letter, he keeps going and failing, repeatedly, and leaving his family behind, and the way it's such an unreasonable argument. Why would that work? Why wouldn't they just kill you?
They call it, I forget what they call it in the book, but they have a name for like what he has too. Like it's not just the gold fever. It's like he's one of those people that keeps getting up and like trying to go to a different claim, and he's like so obsessed with it that he like can't break away from it.
Right.
Well, you get that in that letter, right? Where it's like basically that this is his last go at it.
If you can believe him, but you feel like
because
he's so creepy in just sidling into this campfire to make this crazy argument about
and
why.
I mean, even when they meet him in town, like he's just like what is this dude all about, man? What is he doing?
Yeah.
This is weird.
Oh, in the book they call him an eternal. That's what I was trying to think of the word.
Yeah, I haven't got to that part. Okay.
Oh well, like the name for that kind of person, it's like a different kind of character in the book, I think, a little bit, but like the name for that kind of character is an eternal. Because
see now that Marvel movie makes sense.
Yeah, no, they're eternally going and trying to get gold, and they think that in like a day or two they'll find their big score. The vein, the vein in the ground. They tap that juicy vein and the whatever, and then they see that's the gold deposit.
Right. Because I felt kind of puzzled. Wasn't it in the documentary where the actor, what's his name, Bruce something, couldn't find the character, and John Huston said something like, "Well, you're smarter than these guys," and I'm sitting there going, "Is he?"
Yeah, right, exactly.
Is he smarter than these guys?
Certainly thinks he is. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
He also just tastes their water, which like is kind of they wake up and he's feeding the water to the donkeys, which if you're going to go break into somebody's camp and like follow them there, like the last thing you'd want to do is waste some of the like that's the way to get somebody really fucking mad at you. Like they're already saying like, hey, maybe get the fuck out of here, and then you're like, oh, why don't I waste some of the water that you guys brought, because you have to bring up the water by hand. And he's like, what, is water scarce? It's like, you should fucking know that water is scarce. Like,
come on, man.
Yeah. Anyway, it's an oddity in the film.
Can I tell you something terrible that I just learned?
Uh-oh.
Oliver Stone was at one point considering doing a remake of this.
Oh no, God, no.
God.
Wait, it gets worse. It gets worse.
Floppy sensibility he's got. Oh my God.
Substituting drugs for gold.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because that's. Yeah.
Why do you care what's so expensive? It's the human labor.
Oh,
and where are they trying to get the gold?
I'm sure we'll see in a montage.
Oh my God, that's just.
I was
next week, Oliver Stone. Anyway,
they should have Jamie Foxx do the remake.
They should never remake this ever under any circumstances. No. But
I mean, they could just bring back the song, and it could just be like, "I ain't nothing but a gold digger."
That was the delivery system for that line. I
can see Oliver Stone making this movie, but it's
don't quit your day job, kid. Don't quit your day job.
He's putting like a Scarface era Al Pacino in the role of fucking Humphrey Bogart.
Sure.
and he's just going more and more crazy with like the powder on his nose, like at the end of Scarface.
Well, I mean, speaking of actual inspiration, though, my understanding is that Spielberg was such a big fan that like it's what led him to Indiana Jones was Bogart's Dobbs character. Which is funny because I don't think of those two dudes as being anything alike, but apparently that's like what got him thinking about it. You know?
Hey, kid, just kidding.
I mean, Sam Raimi says that this is one of his favorite films, and it just kind of is weird.
Really?
Like in I think Evil Dead 2, you can actually see photos from this movie as part of like
really.
Yeah, it might only be in the Mexican edit, if but there's like some photos that are in the background of one scene, and they're actually photos from this movie because it's his favorite film. And I'd love to see Sam Raimi do something, not a remake of this, but
He did Quick and the Dead.
Yeah, but that's
a literal Western, Quick and the Dead.
No, but like something a little more sophisticated.
Sharon Stone in that?
Yes, and she's fantastic.
Sharon Stone is quite good in Quick and the Dead. Yes, it's a good genre film.
But like if you ever see like some of his quieter films, like A Simple Plan, that's a very similar movie to this, but like do it as but set it in someplace like Mexico in the 1920s.
I would say though, like in terms of like the Indiana Jones thing, like the Indiana Jones character is way more like a Sam Spade kind of thing. Like you think the whole time.
Yeah, you're bringing the cool in. Yeah. No, I get it.
But he's also able to like get into the mud with everyone, but then ends up being like the nice guy that like the good character, and that's like Humphrey Bogart did that really well. I think this movie is kind of fascinating that his final speech in Maltese Falcon, where he's like, he's like, I won't play the sap for you. Like he's just doing that version of like that kind of that accent and that like cadence the entire one of this movie. Like like Sam Spade goes for broke or whatever.
Right.
It's amazing like how wildly over budget this movie
I know
went too, and like all the stories behind it. Like there's some great ones, and it's notable too because like even if you think about like what like I don't even know like how much would the gold be worth now that they find? It'd be like considerably more, I think, right? But it's
what was it worth? I can't even remember now. 100,000 or
35,000, I think was
35,000. Yeah,
or something.
But yeah, like I guess like when they got the rushes back to Jack Warner, he was like, "Yeah, they're looking for gold, all right, mine."
He did have some good one-liners. That son of a bitch doesn't find water soon. I'm going to be broke. Or
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Some real Uncle Alligator stuff, yeah. But it was very expensive. Okay, so I looked up. So $35,000 in gold that they each have is equal to about $600,000 in 2023.
What?
Okay, so there you go.
Whew, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I wish I had that amount of money right now.
Yeah, me too.
Well,
gold fever.
They're saying
once that YouTube money comes in.
I mean,
we're gonna mine those bitcoins.
It's interesting. I think the locality of it, like
$5,000. Was that what was so
gold.
expensive though? What was it that they were so over budget about?
Just all the shoots. Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I know he's mad about it.
Maybe I missed it.
That was just the shoot went longer, I think, than it was meant to, or
okay, all right.
or more likely
women.
Yeah,
but more likely that John.
Yeah, they cut the women out the budget.
Wasn't being very communicative. Yeah, exactly. That was the budget cut.
Budget cuts, yeah.
And they all was forgiven, of course, after it was a huge hit.
Yeah.
After that,
we're good.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We don't care.
Pay back, whatever.
Apparently one of the things that he was mad about was that he wanted to film it at the Calabasas Ranch, like that was owned by the Warner Brothers.
Yeah, you're right, because Jack Warner thought it was just going to be a B Western. Like he didn't really pay that close attention, so he assumed it was going to be
whatever.
Yeah.
And
he was like, "Wait, they're going to Mexico? What?"
Yeah.
Even back then, the Warner Brothers didn't know shit.
That's what you get for not reading scripts, by the way.
No, you really should read those things.
You should probably read the script. Yeah. little object lesson for you, Jack Warner, even though you've been dead for a very long time.
60, 70 years, something like that. I don't know.
I know that he was also super upset about the ending, too. Like he was
yeah.
like not happy about it at all. And
About the downbeat.
yeah.
Yeah, they never were happy.
What did you expect? Then we go dance off in the sunset? I
Well,
mean,
exactly. I don't know
What woman?
relatively happy, actually. I don't know what you want. You only kill off one character in a really bad way.
That's what I was back in the day. Like the studio execs, like they felt like they really did have control over like scripts and like endings and shit like that. It's almost as if they had more of a creative process back then than they do now. When they're like, yeah, we're just gonna make a film and do a tax write-off. It'll be fine. I know how to do a movie.
Yeah.
Well, they can't have the characters get away with the gold, right? Like the second, like if you're stealing something or you're committing a crime, you can't get away. Like that's one of the Hays Code.
They
The
can't
main
keep getting
one. So you'd
But
have,
like,
to,
who are they stealing
you have
it from?
to have them be like, "Oh, look, a permit." You know, to get it sold. I'm so glad that finally came in.
Yeah. Remember when we filed that off screen? Oh yeah.
Back at the bar and like Bogart goes,
between throwing punches, we filed a permit. You don't remember that? Oh yeah, that was a very small moment.
No, we had the little Mexican boy do it.
Little Robert Blake. Oh,
isn't that crazy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did he
Well,
murder?
there
his
is a
wife?
case of a lot of brown makeup being used. A lot of brown makeup.
Did he? Wasn't he charged with like murdering his wife back in like
Yes,
the early
he
2000s?
was.
Oh,
and
yes.
convicted.
He got away with it, right?
He wasn't distraught. Yeah. He
No, he got convicted.
He got convicted. He did not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he still alive or did he die in prison?
He died this last year.
He died in prison. Or did he? Yeah, I think he did.
No, he got acquitted. He got acquitted in the death of his wife. He
got
died of
acquitted?
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Why did I think he was convicted? That's so weird.
Maybe the glove didn't fit.
But
because I 100% think he did it. That's why.
Yeah, he died a year in 2000.
He died in the spring of 2023. I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was a good actor. He didn't get many chances to show it, but he was good.
Well, I mean, look, he's fantastic as being like a really creepy dude, you know? Lost Highway. That was his final film role.
Yeah.
Like he's like so good in that, but it's like, well, he's so good because he's actually malicious.
Like
Tarantino dedicated Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to Robert Blake.
Oh,
No,
really?
I didn't know
Oh,
that.
I forgot about that.
He
Imagine if he
I must
dedicated
have
Once
seen
Upon a
it,
Time
never
in
read.
Hollywood to Roman Polanski.
Well,
he dedicated it because Brad Pitt's character is accused of killing his wife. Like literally, this, I don't know. This is what it says on the.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Is it in Cold Blood that Robert Blake was?
Yes,
was that the
this
first?
is probably his greatest performance. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Cold
That
Blood.
well,
Again-
don't short sell Beretta. But
I did like Beretta when I was a child.
yeah.
I imagine his trial was probably his greatest performance.
Oh, hey,
Well,
there it is.
There you go. There you go.
There it
You're
is.
probably right.
I wanted this movie though. I wanted to buy. I believed him with the lottery tickets. You know, like I think that don't short sell the performance of getting Humphrey Bogart to buy those lottery
To
tickets.
buy the lottery tickets. Yeah. He's got to
I
take
have
the
all the
water in
winning
the
numbers,
face.
sir.
He was the last remaining Little Rascal. I forgot he was a Little Rascal
God,
too.
right,
that's
that's right.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
He was a baby.
Yeah.
So my kid's bus driver went to Turkey, and I told him like the important thing is whenever you get to Turkey, you're going to get swarmed by little children, begging from you, and all you need to say is just yell "fuck" in Turkish, and they'll back off. And so I taught him to fucking Turkish. He's like, I'm not going to need that. Comes back from Turkey, and he's just like, dude, I wish I could remember what she told me because like I got swarmed by those kids.
How could you forget that?
Oh,
I
no,
love
you
immediately
forgot
Conan's
it.
like, what? Where's the story going?
well, there was an incredible sentence he started with. I was like, okay, I can't wait to see what happens next.
And like, granted, he got the winning lottery ticket there, but like, it just seemed that Humphrey Bogart's character needed to learn like, scream fucking Spanish to the kid.
Okay, that's the attempted relevancy. I
Yes.
see. Okay.
Well, there's
Problem
that.
solved.
The book
Movie
has
over.
that great line where he says the cold water in the face is just taken as a sign of a burgeoning business relationship.
Oh, that's
pretty
right.
much.
It's just the opening of the negotiations or
Yeah.
something. That's right. Well, and they had. I never really noticed it. That they start with Bogart ripping up his lottery ticket in front of the. That's what he's doing, right? That's
Yep.
I don't remember that. from watching it 9 million times on television, all cut to pieces. Yeah.
That's the other thing is like, yeah, on Letterboxd, I've watched this twice. I've watched this way more than that, but like in segments.
Yeah.
Like over the years, like we had the movie channels for years, and I would always, Treasure Sierra Madre, awesome, and be like, I
It's
would
like
see
KT watching moments of The Wizard of Oz, and then finally sitting down to watch the whole thing as an adult.
Yeah, I mean,
I know I'm so impressed you guys did that. Wizard of Oz makes me cry buckets, so I can't watch it anymore.
Same.
I thought it was pretty pro of her to like not reveal her thoughts on it until the show too, which was even if I didn't agree with some of the thoughts, but I get it, and it was still like what an excellent scientific study.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Where it's like,
it's different when you're a child first watching it, and it stays with you as an adult. But when you're an adult with no connection to it, you're like,
I cannot wait to see like the papers written about that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so I this was this is the Treasure Sierra Madre is in the National Film Registry, I think, right? Like it was like culturally significant, so on and so on. Right?
I know people think like These Searchers is like the ultimate Western, but I'm like, I mean, that film's got John Wayne in it, and the Native Americans are, the villains, obviously, because it's John
just
Wayne.
Got big hunks of terrible cornball humor, which everybody just tries to
Everyone forgets about. No, it's all over
it's all through the movie, and it's a lot of it's horribly racist on top of that, but it's super like
that's why I'm like, this is the superior Western.
Has beautiful things in it, but I remember the first time I really sat down at a theater to watch Searchers after hearing nothing but masterpiece, and going,
this is it.
Sure, if you only look at these sequences, but you gotta look at the whole movie.
Yeah.
So anyway,
there's a lot of it that doesn't get over for sure, and it's interesting because I do like John Ford. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, me too.
But like, I think
especially
that
when
one
played by David Lynch.
Oh, absolutely, that was the best part of that movie, if you ask me.
Oh, absolutely, that was the best part. Yeah, absolutely was. Lynch
but
was
it's
great.
like I feel like John Ford, with the exception of like Liberty Valance and probably Stagecoach too, kind of like king of like that film was pretty good. That was pretty good.
How about My Darling Clementine? It's still got racist things.
My darling.
It was racist, but he's when he's on it, he's on. He's sometimes so beautiful, and the
is
one
that
thing
Henry Fonda? That's Henry Fonda, right?
That's the Henry Fonda one. Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen My Darling Clementine.
That's the Doc Holliday, Wyatt Earp, very melancholy.
Yeah. Okay, all right. All right.
Yeah, that one.
I mean, I like whatever, but it's like John Ford is like the you see Ford Apache like just like on like the movie channel and like, you watch it and it's fine, but it is like again just like in Stagecoach. Oh yeah, the horrible racism didn't really age that well. I knew.
Surprised in The Searchers they didn't give Natalie Wood like brown face or something like that, where she played the main indigenous girl. I was like, wow, that's a first.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty problematic, but whatever.
But she's the kidnapped. She's kidnapped. She's white and kidnapped, so that's why. Yeah, but they would have. Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a. I guess they originally wanted for the Tim Holt role, John Garfield.
Oh my God!
Which
he's so movie. Edgy. Good Lord, that would have been Edge versus Edge with Bogart and Garfield. Christ!
But do you know who else was considered?
Who?
I'm sorry, Forrest isn't here to hear this. Ronald Reagan.
Oh, yes, I did see that, and I couldn't. I whited it out. I blanked.
That would have made it a B movie because that's all he was known for.
Oh, good Lord.
The history. We all know why. Nancy Reagan was like, we're not good actors, but we could act as good politicians. That's basically how they got into politics because of her.
Yeah. Oh,
fuck you, Nancy, you throat goat.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, just in case you were unclear of where we stood on the topic. We get Barry to go have at her grave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Topical?
Oh, God. Yes.
I can't believe Forrest's not here to hear the news. I mean, that movie would have been a B movie if Ronald Reagan had been in it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's always mid.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why it's so screwed up that like he's the one guy that didn't really see any action from this because it's like he was really good. Like
really
both those guys would like have ruined this movie. You know?
Oh, I know. Especially when you think of, you're right. Is when you think of those. I mean, Garfield's a great actor, but I just can't imagine.
I mean, are
It's just
any of
different,
Reagan's films in like, are they preserved for like, for recognition and like,
the only performance he ever gave that's supposed to be good is King's Row, which is why he never shut up about it. That's the one where his legs get cut off by a sadistic doctor and he has to go, "Where's the rest of me?" He's not bad in the movie. The movie's better than most of what he did, but overall, he was just. Everyone knew he was bad then. Betty Davis used to refer to him as Little Ronnie Reagan because he was so talented.
Queen.
Yeah.
I mean, just like Elvis, the only good Reagan performance was Bruce Campbell in Fargo.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that's right.
Well, just think, if Elvis had lived, he would have been in A Star Is Born.
Oh my God. Still, wow.
Yeah. He probably would have killed it, his first big role, but Colonel Tom Parker, the guy with all the great decisions, was like, "You're not going to get top billing, kid."
Oh, I know. But Elvis and Barbara Streisand,
that would have been a blockbuster. Like,
well, you would have had to watch it, no matter what kind of a grotesque thing it might have been. But it would have been a fascinating grotesque thing.
Yeah.
Before we did the show, I brought up if anyone else had grown up with like field trips doing gold prospecting stuff, because I think that this has got to be one of the more interesting movies to actually depict how you do that without it being like, like a documentary or anything.
Okay, I have a personal story about school and gold. So it was St. Patrick's Day, and we got back from lunch, and we noticed that a leprechaun came into our classroom. Everything there was green footprints on our desk. There was gold. And like rain, like a rainbow light, like it was a whole thing. I was like, "Oh shit, a leprechaun came in here!" But the gold was just rocks painted over with gold, and I'm like,
"What a chip!"
I know.
And the leprechaun was just Warwick Davis.
Yeah, exactly.
Christina, no offense, that sounded like an Andy story. If I just read a transcript, I was like, that was Andy.
I had to do that because I was like, the whole point is that we didn't do any of the cool gold hunting shit. We just
I never even know.
Gold.
I didn't even know anyone who ever did cool gold hunting.
But I'm from
went California.
Prospecting in Georgia. There was a Georgia gold rush.
I didn't know that.
And I mean, Kristina is not that far from there. So like, what's up with that? But no, there was a Georgian gold rush.
Go get your sluice box.
And there was a guarantee that you could find a little piece of gold in every single tray that they passed out at the place. I couldn't find any. I just know my sweater game was on point that day.
If we ever do a movie about owls, I do have a story about how we dissected like owl poop. So
okay, you're ready. You're ready for that one.
In third grade.
I don't know what's happening right now.
I went to a boring school. That's the only answer.
So I grew up in the Central Valley of California, and the Central Valley is not that far from the foothills of California where the big gold rush was. So it was like a thing where like, okay, everyone's going to go, we're going to go up and
pan for gold.
Pan for gold. And if you, and here's what they got you excited about. And if you find any, you can keep it, which of course, like, come on, you're not going to find it. But it was interesting to me because I was thinking about it. I was like, well, a lot of people probably didn't have that experience. And like, you kind of get like, again, it isn't like a Vox explainer on how to pan for gold or anything, but you get like kind of a how-to. You see an actual like sluice, and you see like you're shown, not told, what iron pyrite is, aka fool's gold. Like in a way that I feel like it didn't need to be there, but it's so cool that it is because it gets you invested in that slow burn of what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how they're doing that. And I think that that's what sort of sets us apart from, all those like B tier, like John Ford Westerns and whatever, that just would never be any interest in showing like how do you pan for gold? Nobody cares. Nobody would be interested in that.
Right.
And I think, and since you were trying to illustrate like poverty, desperation, and greed, and like the corrupting power and whatnot, like to show like, oh, this is a lot of work. This is a lot of work. This isn't just like you go like, oh, there's a leprechaun painted this gold and put this over here.
Just pick it up.
Like it's a lot of work. And I think that's you missed a Ronald Reagan reference.
Yes, he almost got the lead.
He almost got the Tim Holt
role, part.
Yeah.
Which was the more jarring of the two, frankly.
Would have been a B movie.
Yeah.
So, but I get, like, again, setting up the plot and the premise, I'll go back to what I said earlier, that, like, you know, when they get the gold, that's only the start of the story to a certain degree, right? Like, it's sort of like there's a whole movie where it's like, oh yeah, they get the gold, yay, and then, like, you know, roll credits, and it's like, no, oh no, not at all. And you get to see, like, a lot of, like, the whole thing with the Gila monster.
Oh, I know,
right?
that's
what a great scene, because
Yeah.
you see Bogart, like, clearly overreacting. Big time. And then there's a moment where he can kind of de-escalate it a little bit, and he doesn't. And you're like, okay, I see where this is going.
And he does the best talking to himself in a rage of anyone. He's great at that. He does it again when he plays Captain Queeg mentally disintegrating in what do you call it? Cane Mutiny, where he's falling apart and he keeps obsessing. He does obsession wonderfully, paranoia, and that crazy seething rage.
That seething rage to the line where he's like, well, you're talking to yourself. He's like, what? Do you think you guys are worth talking to or something?
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
Damn,
So
dude.
some partners you turned out to be.
So I guess, like, the shoot was like 6 months long.
Which is
right?
crazy.
So maybe that's why he was so mad about how much money it was costing.
Oh yeah, that's so long for them. Wow.
And again, if he thought it was going to be shot on a lot, like 10 minutes away from Hollywood too. But during that entire time, the only Spanish that Humphrey Bogart learned was Dos Equis.
I did see that.
Fantastic.
I guess he wasn't sentimental about like actor prep or anything.
Yeah.
And that
he's not
is
going
amazing.
method.
The thing about Walter Huston didn't know any either and had to just train himself to imitate it. And he did it so well that everyone thought he spoke it. That was impressive. I never would have guessed he couldn't speak.
He was the Daniel Day-Lewis of his time.
Hola. He's like, hola, ¿cómo estás?
Yeah, his accent is a little.
Where's the gold?
Where's the gold?
Kind of like, it's interesting how his character ends up, where because when you first see the natives show up, you're like, oh, what's this gonna be about, right?
Yeah.
And then ends up being, and you kind of get, like, again, not that you need at that point, but you get a sort of thermometer of everyone's character at the reaction, right? And then it's so cool that you know, he ends up coming up clearly objectively the best off of any of them, because A, he isn't dead, B, he isn't he's rich in other ways. And I think that's in a way that, like, in other hands that could be cloying or annoying or obnoxious, right? But it's capped with just like, oh yeah, here's just like yet another tragedy in an ongoing series of tragedies, which is all the gold just blew away because nobody knew what was in the bags.
Well, you gotta. I mean, one of the things that makes that character fascinating is this is just another gold trip in the whole life of Gold Trip.
Oh yeah,
right?
that's his whole life, exactly. Yeah.
And it really hits on this, you know, like reading the book, like there's chapters that are just dedicated to him telling them like gold stories or whatever. And it's like, no, like this guy's been on actually worse gold adventures than this one. Like this one's actually pretty mild in comparison to the one where they found a huge amount of gold and they're all like, you know, running around together. And then, you know, people start like their entire people were like massacred by the Native Americans that were, you know, like the Native Mexican indigenous tribe that was there. Like this guy's seen some shit. So like, it's funny that this is for Humphrey Bogart and for, you know, for like pretty much anybody that isn't him. This is like a story that's that this is the story, but for him it's like, yeah, this is just
he's the one that brings it up, right? He like mentions the whole like people allying against each other thing, and here's why. Like he
predicts everything. He's been through it all.
And then he's like, and me, you know, I can't get that far. You get me easily. So which is a great line because it's so matter of fact. Like he's not trying to be like, you know, Mr. Pompous, know it all about it. He's just like, oh no, I would never. Like there's a clear reason why it should be me. It's because I'm
right.
Do you guys think that the prospect, like, cause now like the prospector always kind of looks like Walter Huston, like this character, right? Like,
I think so, yes. I think he just created the role, and now that's what they do.
Wow, I never
thought like in the Ballad of Buster Scruggs when it's Tom Waits and he's craggy old dude. Of course, he doesn't do a dance.
Even Toy Story, you know, not to like.
Oh right.
There's one of the characters in one of the Toy Stories,
Sam or something.
Yeah, it's like the prospect, and he looks like the Walter Huston character, and I didn't put two and two together until watching it like this time. But like I think that it's the, you know, the image of the prospector seems so I mean either they took it from somewhere else, but I think that it probably is him. Like that's the
I think it might be him,
almost like this leprechaun-esque figure almost like
Well, Well, I also like it that he winds up in a kind of paradise, which is great.
Yeah.
Because, he's always the guy who kind of knows what, even though he's always going for gold and always going for the fortune, he always seems to know what's precious. He's the one who says, now water's precious. So he seems to have a kind of weird, not only is he observant and smart, but he also has this kind of way of putting values back into place, which seems like it's got to be part of the whole socialist thinking of like what really matters. In the end, he's going to have everything. He's going to have the best food, the best everything. But I love it because in Disney movies, from Jungle Book to what's the newer one, Hakuna, whatever that song is, Lion King. Whenever the characters get into paradise and the food is falling off the trees into their hands and everything, and everything's perfect, that's bad. Because Disney felt that the Protestant work ethic was what made for greatness. So if you're laying around in paradise, being fed papaya or whatever, and you don't have to work for it, that's just very, very bad.
And the whole reason he gets there is because he has an idea of the commons, right? He decides to help and be altruistic when he doesn't have it. There's no real reason to other than to be a good human being. And obviously,
in fact, he should go to this kind of apparent paradise. Perfect. Yeah. And there's no moral disapproval of no, he's going to go stay there and live just a heavenly life.
Actually, this is way better than hanging out at that bar.
Yeah, way better.
Wait, this just popped up on my YouTube algorithm, but because we talked about it.
Oh, so we talked about the Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, because we invoked it earlier. Just the 10 seconds of it.
Yeah.
Hey, pardon me, but could you help out a fellow American who's down on his luck?
Hit the road.
I love when he says that.
It's so great. So great.
Hit the road.
So fun tidbit. A doctor was assigned to the unit in Mexico one night that had to attend to John Huston because they were smoking the weed, him and his dad, and he had an adverse reaction. And apparently he never touched the stuff again for the rest of his life because
oh my gosh. Wow.
You get one bad trip or whatever, and it's over.
But I like that he was smoking it with his dad in Mexico.
I mean, my mom won't let me smoke weed with her. It's weird. I mean, I don't smoke cigarettes. I probably don't smoke weed, but she's like, "You're going on a podcast about weed?" I'm like, "Yep." And she's like, "What do you got planned?" I'm like, "Inedible."
There you go. There you go.
It's the green nuggets. Green gold.
Another thing, I guess, Huston and the art director, they scouted around for the locations that they use, and they covered 8,000 miles before they finally settled on. Again, let's go back to how expensive this movie was. But hey, it looks amazing, right? When you think of, and again, this is part of our Movie Night Adventure series, right? Our second series of movies that are adventure movies. This is one of the great ones for that alone, because again, without leading to tokenism or anything along those lines, it has the adventuring spirit to it. It just happens to be the downside of it most of the time.
Oh wow! So the one thing that costs, I think, probably a shitload of money. The windstorm in the final scene was created by jet engines borrowed from the Mexican Air Force. So they paid the Mexican Air Force off. Also, didn't really know Mexico had an Air Force, but hey, it's a little surprising.
I didn't even know Mexico had an Air Force, let alone that we were renting from them. What are they up to down there?
It's hard to imagine America letting Mexico have an Air Force.
Exactly.
Poor actors. Your heart goes out to him sometimes. That must have been miserable. Absolutely miserable.
It looks great though.
No, God, it really does. Yeah.
Shall we go Letterboxd one-liners?
Yeah.
Cool. So Letterboxd, of course, is a social media site for film lovers who talk at, with, and to each other about the movies they love, maybe the movies that they didn't love, the movies that they saw some incredibly dirty and smelly people in. And of course, all of this is best expressed succinctly. You don't sit Siskel's and Eberts of the world, bottom-up democracy. Everyone gets to have their say. Everyone gets to chime in. And then we excerpt them and we put them on the screen for this bit, which is the Letterboxd one-liners for Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Let's go. Couldn't understand anything the old guy was saying. Awesome film. Why wasn't Tim Holt a bigger star?
Oh, there you go.
It's like our podcast in one line.
It kind of is a little bit. I do like how mushmouth he is, though, because that's real. That guy would not have perfect elocution.
Barbara's teeth look really white, though.
Yeah, they do there. But Tim Holt. I think Tim Holt's a victim of his own circumstances. Like, in the sense that like he does a good performance in this. It's just it does what it's supposed to do. It's just, you know,
he was just next to a career best by Humphrey Bogart and
Yeah.
a career best by Walter Huston.
Yeah. but if he was trying to outact them, the character wouldn't be good. So it's like almost like a catch-22, right? Like
Ambersons is before this, right? It was like 42, I think.
Yeah, it's before. Yeah, that's right.
Damn.
And in the meantime, he'd gone to war and got, you know, kind of more older and more weathered looking. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a more weathered cowboy instead of
It's a more different cowboy.
Different cowboy.
Seems to me that going camping with Bogey isn't very fun.
I mean, I could have told you that without watching Treasure of the Sierra Madre. He's drunk the entire time.
Let's keep the Dos Equis around. Yeah, exactly.
Apparently, he was drunk and he told a film critic while filming this, like he saw a film critic that had like doubted him in the past, and he's like, "Oh, I can only play good characters, huh? Well, you know, you're about to see the worst shit you ever saw."
Oh, because he was an
Like
unlikable
his character. I
dude.
mean, yeah.
Got it. All right, yeah, that makes sense. I love the idea of having a quick snack before a big shootout.
Yeah, the shootout in this, like the shootout between you know, bandits in like the hills and fucking,
Oh yeah.
it
Oh,
seems
that's right.
a little bit
They have an
different
hour,
than
so they
the-
all decide to eat. That's right.
Beans with coffee. Can we just take a moment? Beans with coffee. Do I need to say anything else?
Well, they're Mexicans, I guess. I mean, that's like classic Hollywood being like, well, they're Mexican, they eat beans. Like,
Well, it's a fine thing to eat on camping. I'm just saying the combination of those things are not usually too great for the digestive system. That's all I'm saying. If I was going into battle, I don't know. You only got what you got.
I don't know. Maybe if they run out of bullets, they could just start shitting at them.
bandits also ride around on horses. Like, so if you're eating beans and coffee and then riding a horse, seems fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Sounds like a bad idea all around, if you ask me. But they do. It's like, oh, they're not going to be here for 45 minutes. Let's go eat.
I love
all right.
I love the scene. I love the scene where they're passed out though, and the prospector is like, "Hey, you're gonna want your beans. Eat your beans. Hey, you're gonna want your beans," and they're just completely asleep. And it goes on for 30 seconds.
Beans, and musical fruit. Bogart inventing goblin mode. Yes. Yes, indeed. Hard agree.
It's goblin mode. It's you think that I'm not going to take my goblin and go home?
He does great talking to himself stuff.
Yes.
As it gradually escalates, and he has the whole wagon train of the donkeys.
I love that it's a different kind of talking to yourself than like the noir kind, where it's like, you know, like that's when I went, you know, walked down the street and I thought somebody was selling the gold, but in the, like he's, I don't know, he's becoming almost like like you have to imagine that prospector talks to himself all the time too. Although even he's like, whoa, talking to yourself is a little much for me.
I kind of imagine that's what Oliver Stone sounds like.
At this point, yeah.
Except for about JFK.
Probably.
Thank you. There's both fools and gold in them there hills.
True. They're kind of fools. They're not the smartest. They're learning on the job, right? Like this is not. You never want to say like I'm built different to like an old man in a hotel that's like gold makes people do crazy things. Like you could already tell fucking Humphrey Bogart from the beginning is a little off his, you know, he's just a little off. Like that's why he's in the position he's in anyway. And then he's like, oh, I would never do that. And it's like, bro, like we just saw you beat a guy up for $200. Like,
right, exactly. We know very well you would. Yeah, you kidding me?
You asked the same guy 3 times for, you know, a peso. Like,
right.
No, that's one of my favorite things is we don't get any backstory. That's the other than that, you know, Curtin liked that peach harvest that time. I mean, we don't know anything about these guys or how they got to be in these circumstances. Oh, these two anyway. I love that. That's great. That would never happen now. Now you'd have to have the fucking prequel that tells you Psych 101, you know, how they grew up and what.
Well, that's the difference between Sorcerer and Wages of Fear. You know.
But look at like even B. Traven. Like, I mean, for a different reason. Like nobody knew why he was in Mexico, right? Like he's either a German or a Dutchman or an American.
He's definitely one of those things. Yeah.
So he's one of those things. and he's in Mexico City for
Could be a leprechaun for all I know. I don't know.
Like it mirrors his own thing where it's like he wrote these short stories where he's like, I'm not going to tell you any information about myself, and it's like, or his characters apparently their backstories, which is good, but like, you know what I mean, like it mirrors his own reticence. Again,
in the biopic industrial complex, but make a biopic about that guy first.
So they tried to write 5 separate biographies about him when professional biographers gave up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Anyway, back to the Letterboxd one-liners. Get a load of this fucking guy energy. Yes.
This fucking guy.
Get a load of this fucking guy. Yeah.
Oh, the other thing that I wanted to say
back to that. Yeah.
No, but the B. Traven guy, there was some Mexican journalist that befriended the guy that he thought he was, like the Hal whatever guy, and he like, you know, got to know the guy, like secretly was like watching him, like, you know, and finally he was like, it's you're B. Traven, and the guy's like, I'm going to literally kill myself, like if you publish the story, and he's like, and then like the guy's talking to like the camera and the BBC thing, and he's like, I told him, if you kill yourself, it's on you, man, and he's like, thank God he didn't. Wow. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
Those were different times. Fred C. Dobbs walked so Daniel Plainview could run. Perfectly displays what greed does to a motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's true. It's
Well,
absolutely
and
true.
it's also like there's, you know, it's like the underclass, right? Like where if you're the guy for the underclass, it like a lot of these stories, like because it's around here, like you don't get more empathy for the people around you, or like you're not like, oh, I wish I could have the money to like, you know, alleviate the suffering of these other people. You're like, I wish I had this money, and then I'm gonna go fucking bitch out the guy at the restaurant, you know,
Exactly.
and, like customer
I'm gonna
service.
send the meal
hours,
back,
like-
even if it's done right.
And he brags about it. That's right.
He's a
I forgot he was an aspiring Karen. Yeah, that's
Karen.
Well, in the novelization, he is like he gets the 2 pesos from the fucking you know, the John Huston kind of guy. He gets the 2 pesos. He goes to the Chinese restaurant and instantly starts complaining to the Chinese restaurant about how they've raised their prices by a few cents. And
fantastic. But I mean, it's all tied up in the I know what gold does to men's souls line. Though,
Yeah.
right. I mean, it's perfect in there.
No, I think it's interesting what they were able to like take into this character, because this seems like a very hard character to put on screen without kind of the B. Traven like narration of telling you what's going through the guy's mind, or like what he's like, you know what I mean? Like, and Humphrey Bogart does it perfectly. But that line perfectly embodies it, where he's like, I'll send the meal back. Even if the meal's fine, I'll send it back.
But B.
Like,
Traven also adds that he says something like he just wants the very human pleasure of being able to complain. So there's a lot of that kind of, you know, we're not just looking at who's the bad guy who falls apart or who can't take the pressure. It's, you know, there's really an unbeautiful analysis of human nature going on.
Fred C. Dobbs would make a great main character on Twitter.
Yeah. He'd be like the venture capitalist that did get the gold or whatever, and like he manages to like invest some of it, and then spends the rest of his life just bitching about like really inane shit to the point where it's like, all right, man. It's like,
No, he wouldn't be the venture capitalist. He'd be the guy who invested in Bitcoin and thinks he's a millionaire.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, do you want to get, sir? I got the winning Bitcoin. Number 13. I got all the winning numbers.
Yeah, and he's like mad if you like alt click his pictures.
Speaking of alt clicking, move on.
Exactly.
The old prospector is one of the coolest dudes I've ever seen.
Aw.
Hard agree.
Yes.
That's right. Those are the Letterboxd one-liners for Treasure of Sierra Madre. Please follow the show's Letterboxd HQ account at Movie Night Extra, where we're logging this film and many others on all Letterboxd stories. You can also follow each of us, always Flacco, over there. He's built different. You can find out if you follow him on Letterboxd. I, of course, am at Conan Neutron. I know what gold does to men's souls. And you can find out all about it on my Letterboxd, where I'm watching the highbrow, the midbrow, the populist fare, all that stuff. Follow me along for the Criterion Challenge. I'm also doing the Film School Dropouts Challenge as well at the same time, because I, too, am built different. J.N. wrote Pisco Banditi World. Badges, I don't need no stinking badges, but you do need to follow him to find all the weirdest stuff that he's watching. Lots of Doctor Who episodes currently, but
yes,
but he's watching it, all the weirdest stuff. So You don't have to. Maybe you can. Not for me to judge. I don't know. It's just what it is. The Rhinestone Cowgirl down there. Kristina. Our Cosmopolitics is occasionally on the Letterboxd and logging stuff as well. Please follow her as well.
Yeah, I did my year, my Letterboxd year review. Anyone want to take a guess who was my most watched actor?
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
Yeah, shocking. What a shocking development that
What
is.
are you doing? Those were clean clothes, mister.
Eileen Jones is far too busy to be on Letterboxd, but we love her nonetheless. Andrew,
good for it.
Please take us away with the plugs. Why don't you?
All right. If you're watching us right now on YouTube, please do those YouTube things: like, comment, subscribe. Of course, hit the bell. And the big ask that we always ask you to do: watch the video to the end. That actually allows other movie fans to find our content and lets you hear that great Conan Neutron song.
I know what gold does to leprechaun souls.
Seen that movie.
Very good. Very good. Very good.
And of course, we're also on Twitch while there is a Twitch. And do the Twitch
it ain't
thing.
looking too good, guys. We have to move the kick.
Throw us a sub over there if you can. Okay. If you happen to have an Amazon
kick.
Oh, okay.
If you happen to have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe to us for free. Doesn't cost you anything, but actually really does help out our account. So
keeps us in hats.
Yes, yeah, it supplies hat budget.
I need to get extra money so that I can afford the rest of this hat.
Doesn't even have a complete one, people. He's the host of the show.
It's a brim and then a mosquito net.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because but also too, you don't have any hair, so I can see why you need it.
Oh yeah, did you know that you didn't have any hair for us?
Wait, what?
Where did it go?
You gotta protect that head from mosquitoes.
You also need to protect that head from sun in this hat.
From sun.
It's a poor job of both things, I guess.
I guess the top kind of does.
A little, but really, let's follow us on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky.
Threads too.
Threads, yes,
Yeah.
Threads.
Not just a depressing movie.
Correct.
It's a depressing social media site too.
It is. But yeah, you don't have to.
Thank you.
But follow us on the one that the social media site that depresses you the least.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Friendster.
Exactly. Follow our MySpace.
All right. And of course, support us over on Patreon. You can join us and be able to go to our backlog of after parties, which we are not doing one tonight.
That's right.
But if you feel like you need more content from us, there's plenty more extra material right there behind the paywall. So sign up on Patreon and check some of that stuff out. There are some absolute gems.
Yes. I'm glad it's behind the paywall. That's what I will say about it. Got a professional reputation.
True. Supposed to be
there's some absolute gems, but unluckily for us, we are
let's keep it locked away, why don't we?
We're the kind of crazy fucking people going nuts for gold out there. So
That's right, exactly.
Or Muppets, as one of the cases may be.
Buy gold, guys. The gold is hot now. Apparently, you won't go bankrupt or anything.
The gold is hot, and so are the takes in the Movie Night Extravaganza Patreon.
the gold is hot, and then you do the fucking Uncle Alligator voice, and so are the broads.
Stay gold. Stay gold. Oh wait, that's the Outsiders.
Patreon.
Ooh, we should cover that one time. I love it.
They call it Patreon, folks. You're never gonna believe it, kid. Thank you. I'm having Uncle Alligator material right now. It was always done by a real guy that was the actual producer of the movie. So
yeah,
you don't even need it.
Yeah, and of course, Conan is over there hosting
Yes.
Protonic Reversal, and
Yes.
which you just had somebody cool on, and I'm forgetting who it was because I didn't
Scott
know.
McDonald of Arc Welder. They just put out their first record since 1999, which is pretty astounding. And it's
25 years ago.
Yeah, it's
They are now officially Y2K compliant.
1999, honestly, was the
25
best
years.
year of music. Hand out, fight me, I don't care.
Yeah, so that's a great episode. If you know what that band is, the people that do are very into it. Former guest of Proton Controversial and recently of this show, Gerald V. Casali of Devo on Thursday. So very excited. We're going to talk about the Devo documentary that is now premiering at Sundance, I believe, as well as all the touring they're doing. Of course, the new video, all that stuff. We got into a little bit of that with 2001, the now classic episode of, 2 weeks ago? 3.
Something like that.
It was Christmas.
Instant classic, yeah.
So tune in for that. Protonic, Thursday, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. And there's a Patreon as well, so advance access. If you miss it live, pay me $1. Especially pay me $1 now. I'm broke. broke. Got to get that Patreon money.
But you get the episode early, so
exactly.
You don't have to wait around. Like people who are like Fred Dobbs over there. Just bumming around Mexico, waiting for the free stuff. Pay and get those episodes early.
Could you help a fellow podcaster down on his luck?
and of course, you can check out Conan Neutron's band, Conan Neutron and Secret Friends, over at neutronfriends.bandcamp.com.
Yep.
And Adult Prom's the new one.
That's right. And we got some tour dates to announce, but I'm not doing it for a little while. So
very cool.
Big things coming.
Yes.
That's what they always say. Big things coming. And then it's like, oh, you're playing a show? Was that the big thing?
If you guys look, we've been moving in silence, but big things are coming.
Yeah, big things are coming. Moving.
Number one, no, you haven't. Number two, no, they're not.
It'll be another month that I can announce some stuff. So
looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to it too. It's snowing like crazy right now. I can't wait to do more band stuff.
I know we're having a horrible windstorm. It was really scary. I was afraid my power would go out in the middle of the
wind. Everyone's like, I'm like, rain too. Everyone's like, I got snow. And I'm like, I get rain and floods. And ice.
Yeah, we're getting actually snow and rain and floods.
Oh God!
Did you just try to one up the misery weather?
Like right now, I'm getting.
That's because of climate change at this point. My sister's like, I like being in New Jersey, living here, and it feels like Christmas. I'm like, no, it doesn't. You guys haven't gotten snow in years.
You filthy liar. No, it doesn't.
No, and rain and floods. Oh my.
But no, yeah, I'm like sitting there, prepping for the show, and I'm getting a phone call from the kids' school, and just like, oh, it's gonna rain and snow and flood. The fuck?
Good Lord.
They cancel school now for rain now. Like it's ridiculous. Like everyone's like, back in my days, we just went in the hallway. And I'm like, who gives a fuck? You could do shit at home now with schooling.
Are you running for school board? What's happening? Like, why are we hearing so much about this?
Because my mom's like, did you hear? Because we have customers who are like, we cancel because we don't want you guys cleaning while we're home. Okay. And I'm like, awesome. Another day to stream. Cool.
There you go.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you're over there on Twitch streaming.
Yes. And I'm going to be going on kick.com as well as Cosmopolitics. Kick does the revenue split of 95 for the streamer and 5% for Kick. Not 50-50 like Twitch does.
All right.
The thing that really fucks everything too is that the money on Twitch is going to Jeff Bezos.
Yes.
He's like the richest man in the world, and he's like, I also need 50%.
And Amazon does not care about Twitch, which explains why probably by 2025 Twitch is just gonna. So we got to start finding our alternatives now.
It's like a fucking mafia don of New York City, like kicking a homeless guy and being like, "Hey, let me get like half of that change."
Yeah. But yeah. On stream this week, I'll be discussing like this, the changes to Twitch firing another third of their staff, probably going over Trump, teams like, he could assassinate his rivals and he'll get total immunity because he's president, like shit like that. There's a lot of stuff going on that I gotta discuss this week. So
the Don Jr. tweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, which one?
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, Donald Trump was not on Epstein Island. I'm like, well, Joe number 174. We'll see about that.
All right, so follow Kristina on Twitch for whatever that was. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. If you have no clue what we're talking about,
I don't. I'm on the show. How do you expect the
headache?
audience?
So I'm like, I
get a headache on this all the time. Yeah.
And of course, if you want to support Kristina over, she has a Patreon as well. Patreon.com/cosmopolitics. And throw her some dough.
Yes, please.
Or some gold.
Yeah.
Keep it appropriate to the movie. Yeah.
Yes. And Eileen's been prospecting at FilmSuck.
I am. I just wrote a piece on kind of belatedly on Saltburn and related it to Kind Hearts and Coronets, which is an old.
I love Saltburn. I told my mom was like, "What's Saltburn about?" I'm like, "Well, Barry Keoghan has like a girthy 8-inch long penis. Someone fucks a grave. Someone licks semen off the bathtub," and she's like,
"It had it all."
I'm like, "Come on!" I'm like, "Mom, you've never seen a penis before? Come on, more male frontal nudity."
We're like when the after party already.
I know. Not doing one, so I'm splashing a little bit in.
But it's
so what you're saying is I shouldn't watch
phrasing.
it while my child is up.
No, do not.
Definitely do not.
Well,
I think that they need to make Kristina permanent. Like when somebody like misses a bachelorette person, like they can hire Kristina to join their bachelorette party.
Plan it.
Yeah.
And be like full frontal male nudity. Let's see some penis.
It's got the names.
Nobody asked me. I saw Saltburn. I was kind of let down after Promising Young Woman, which I quite liked. So
also, people are discovering that she was Midge in Barbie, and I'm like, yeah, they gave the most raunchy female director the most timid, safe role in the film.
Yeah. Anyway,
go Emerald.
Sure.
Yeah.
Next, what else? What else we got?
I don't know. I was going to also put like Jacobin because we were talking about.
Oh yeah.
But
We're on Eileen's plugs. I just thought we were...
Sorry. I'm terrible at plugging because right now it's the January doldrums, so I haven't even flogged myself to the theater since the end of December. Last thing I wrote was the review of Poor Things. So it's things like Night Swim and I don't know. I can't.
Did you see Godzilla -1?
I haven't, but I've heard it's great. My
godson
was like, "You gotta go see it." I've had several people tell me it's way better than most of what I saw in 2023.
Yeah, it's my second favorite after Holdovers, I think.
Yeah. That's what
I was.
told.
And I don't know. I walked into it kind of pre-hype. Now everyone's talking about it, so I guess keep the. But like I found it like for once, like the human side of the story wasn't the worst part of the movie, like every other Godzilla movie.
Right.
Godzilla.
It's very good.
Yeah. So anyway, I still got catch up to do, and I just haven't even been able to start. I adopted a dog. I had the holidays. It's terrible weather. Or I have a plumbing emergency. I have a million excuses. So
well, FilmSuck has a Patreon, and you can join it. I actually am on it. I don't do that for many shows. I bring it up every time. So I'm a cheapskate. But it's very good. And it's...
Oh, thank you.
I think it's just trying to get a discount.
It's Eileen, her partner, Dolores, and it comes with an ethos. It's a very entertaining show, and most shows suck about movies. So
thank you.
They do.
We're counting on that low bar. That's what we're counting.
Exactly. The bar is very low. The show may meander, but at least we're funny. Jesus Christ. Here's some of these shows. Oh.
And of course, for me, I just put out that video on Give Them an Argument page if you want to learn about a socialist sculptor. There's a I got to make a little video about him shortly after his 100th birthday. So which granted it took a while for us to put the video together, and now he's 101. Well, he's also dead, so it doesn't really matter.
Also dead.
I would have probably led with the dead part, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
No, he died back in 2000.
I'm the Michael Bay of plugging obscure things, apparently. I'm just going to get right to the explosion.
Oh.
But yeah, go check that out and learn about Leonard Baskin.
Leonard Baskin. Okay. Exciting.
All right. Eileen, final thoughts on this movie? Anything that we didn't get to?
I will just say my favorite line is my favorite little bit is Bogart when he's watching the Howard, the Walter Huston character, run up the hill, and he's just like, and Curtin says, "And here you thought we were going to pack him on his back," and he said, "Well, that was when I thought he was an ordinary human being, not."
Yeah.
And Bogart's delivery is just mwah!
Really good. Yeah.
Beautiful.
They throw it also. He kind of like messes it up when he's like, "Oh, and also part camel too," and I was like,
"Yeah, it's not as good." I agree.
It's like
ruins the purity.
It's like when
Didn't need a
Trump
tag.
hit you with the it's like when Trump hit you with like the 2016 lines, you're like, yeah, and then the 2020 lines, you're like, This is
Magnets don't work in water anymore.
So a couple of solid laughs in there too, on top of everything else.
That's right.
Yeah.
All the mayhem is also.
There's some really like great lines throughout this,
Mm-hmm.
like sprinkled into the whole thing.
Mhm.
I mean, I definitely really like his I'll order something and send it back even if it's perfect, like
Yeah.
maybe or whatever. He's like you really like you thought this
You've
out,
thought
and
this
you're not
out,
only and all of his things are like kind of petty too. Like
Yeah.
he's like don't worry, like I've thought this out, and like I'm kind of gonna be a dick now that I have money, like. I'm gonna like spit at service workers or something. It'll be cool.
Works for the rich, yeah.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be aces.
I can't wait till a homeless guy asks me for money, and I'll say, "Sorry, brother, can't spare a dime." And I'll
Exactly.
All right, Kristina, final thoughts.
The best Western there is. Suck it, John Wayne. Also, needed some women. My only complaint.
Yeah, the characters need some women too.
Mm-hmm. They need that
Hey,
pussy.
don't think about women. It's not good for your health.
Not good for your health.
I mean, it's probably,
This is a Bechdel fail, right? I mean, Jesus Christ, there's like 2 women in passing walking down the street.
This is a man's world.
Exactly.
There's that mountain.
Right.
They're like, get those broads out of here. Why are there 2 women in passing? We're trying to do a guy's own movie.
Exactly. Dudes are trying to rock here.
The opposite of a
How
chick
dare
flick.
you?
Well, I mean, at least they don't, because John Huston was kind of sexist, like
Kinda,
towards people, yeah. Like at least he didn't even in this movie. He doesn't even attempt to, have any female character. Like maybe that's for the better. I don't think
It's not a flattering film about human nature.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think adding like a Mexican woman would that it wouldn't age well whatever they did. Like I don't know what the character, but like no matter what they did, it wouldn't have aged well.
Yeah.
Andy, final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got to rewatch this because I realized watching it, I haven't seen this in forever. I mean, I literally can't remember the last time I rewatched it. It might have been right around the time I saw From Dusk Till Dawn 3, where Danny Trejo goes, "Brushes? We don't need no stinking brushes."
There's a third one?
Yeah. It's the origin story for Selma Hayek's character for some reason, and Selma Hayek's not in it.
People love saying something. We don't need no stinking something. And that line will transcend anyone ever. I mean, well, people always remember Treasure of the Sierra Madre. It's in the it's in the film registry. But like, I feel like more like without even knowing what this is from, you're like, yeah, I know that's from.
It's like yeah, Danny Trejo took that from UHF.
Well, when I saw it at UHF too, and like, but I wasn't thinking about that first. I was thinking about Blazing Saddles. And like that, I remember hearing that, and then having it explained to me by like I don't know if it was my dad or if it was at a friend's house, but somebody explained like, oh, well, that's Treasure of the Sierra Madre. That's what they're referencing. I was like, I don't know what they're referencing, but it was funny. Like,
Talking about the guy from the Bugs Bunny cartoon?
Yeah.
But Conan, final thoughts.
Yeah, this is an all-time favorite of mine. I think it's one of the greatest cinematic examples of the corruption of the human soul and spirit by greed. One of my all-time favorite performances by Bogey, who's the villain, and as I mentioned before, approaches Gollum levels of paranoia and possessiveness.
The real villain.
I love the pacing of this. Not too slow, not too quick. It's a darkly comic morality tale, grim, unromantic. This is a very unromantic movie, and I like that a lot. Great storytelling, gorgeous lighting, cinematography, and vistas. I mentioned the fireplace scenes specifically. I love the shadows in that so much. Again, I think that those that love There Will Be Blood, which I do like, and don't know this classic should be fined because it's one thing to be homaged by something, but like, okay, I get it, man. It really gets across the era-appropriate poverty in the beginning, and again, getting the gold is just the start of the problem. Huge John Huston fan, so I was totally shocked to realize that Walter Huston was his dad and not just some guy, as I mentioned 100,000 times in the show. And I really think it is one of the ultimate adventure movies. So very, very glad that we were able to get it in for Movie Night Adventure again and have Eileen on for it.
It's great. Thank you.
I think last time we did Adventure Month, it just ended up being one too many movies, if I remember correct. 'Cause I remember saying,
so.
yeah, I remember saying like we should do it, like I was on board for that, and then it was just like one movie had to get crowded out, and I think it was this one.
Yeah, exactly. There was no Romance in the Stone that month.
we pushed this one out of the tent. You know.
By the way, Romancing the Stone with Renee Ruin coming up later this month. I do like that movie. It's just very not on the same level.
Romancing the Bone, right? So we're covering
back in the days of VHS tape adult sections. Yeah. Or so I hear.
I'm just gonna, badges. We never needed badges. Just remember that the real badge was inside of you all along.
All the time.